Right, with all due respect, good evening. The 2022 general elections is way behind us now. In all analysis, we can now start focusing on great detail what happened in the last poll. For starters, the past election saw a modest increase in the number of women elected. The numbers remained low below the constitutional threshold of not more than 2/3 of either gender. Now, a total of 16,100 candidates ran for the various seats, with women candidates constituting a mere 1,962. That's about 12.2%. Out of this, only 208, 8.3% of women were elected out of 1,628 elective seats, which means 1,691 seats are currently occupied by the male gender. Keep me with the numbers. Now, this glaring gender gap can be explained, among other things, of the nature of political campaigns, economic and financial barriers, physical violence, sexual violence, cultural barriers, and political education challenges, among many other factors. With all respect tonight, without the political heat of the campaigns, we can discuss rather calmly about these challenges tonight. I'm joined by Florence Machio, who has recently edited a book detailing female candidates' experiences in the just concluded elections. It Happened to Me is the title of that book. Also joining us tonight is Wanja Maina, development and specialist and a budding politician. And also joining us is Malasen Hamida, Mama Mazingira, candidate NC Party 22 Kibra, and has vied 3 times. We want to hear that experience and how that has been. Ladies, with all respect, good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let's start perhaps where we should, with you, Malasen, because you're a candidate in this last election, vied 3 times. How was the campaign?
Wow, the campaign was okay. The campaign was peaceful for our part and very engaging, because we were campaigning on issues. For me, it was environmental matters and climate change. So that was my clarion call. So it was not difficult, bearing in mind that I'm born and bred in Kibra. And it actually, over time, it became better.
It's getting better for you.
It is getting better for me. The first time it was a bit difficult. We had a bit of cultural barriers, whereby it was said that it's better to actually vote for a man culturally than a woman. But by 2019, when we lost our member of parliament, the late Ken Okoth, I also went for it, because it was actually voting that was taking place only in Kibra constituency, so I took it up also. And it was equally good, but it became a national contest, whereby all the big wings were in Kibra for that election, and we did our part. And then 2022, the agendas that I am pushing for, nobody has actually pushed, and the challenges are still the same. So I felt, oh, they still avoid. So I still had to go for it this time round. But it became how it became. This time round, the dynamics were different. We had Political Parties Act amended, whereby we had a coalition of parties. We had coalition parties, so it came with its own challenges. Yes.
And that was on the ground. Wanja, for you, what's the political terrain for you? What does it look like for you?
Well, I would say it looks like a terrain with potholes, a lot of bumps, a lot of corners, and in Kenya I think we call them black spots. But also I would say in that same terrain there is an expressway, probably there is a nice highway.
Who takes the expressway?
I would say it is a mixture of things.
Yeah.
And I would really struggle to say that it's one way. There are a lot of dynamics, especially for a young person or a young woman who is interested in politics. But even before we take that road or that terrain, for me, I really tried to introspect this topic from the time when a woman intends to vie, and the actors and the things that play in before now you say, here I am in front of you, I want to vie. James, if you meet women, and especially those I happen to meet, at this day and age, they were seeking for permission. You know, seeking for permission is sort of giving up your power. You know, the law says you have to be over 18, so you have a sound mind, have chapter 6 document. Now that is the permission now for the law. But now there are a lot of cards at play, family members, spouses, and no seeking for permission could also involve accessing family money to be now in the politics or vying in the MCA, governor, any seat that a woman is interested. So the road started, it's like when we are starting to vie and this is the terrain, the woman is like at -10 before now you get past it, so that now you can come to the so-called equal and level playing ground. There are unique challenges for young women. Are you married? Is say for example in my case, your surname, what's your surname? Mwangi or Oteno? Is Oteno your dad or is Oteno your father? So before you answer that, they have already placed you are married or unmarried. Also, like a lady friend who was vying in my party, I'm a member of Jubilee Party, she told me that they asked her, so they call you Mama who? So by the time you say you Ryan or there is no Ryan, because every child in Kenya is called Ryan these days, now you have been placed as unmarried, don't have a child. And I can.
And that's not good.
Not at all. That one takes away a lot of marks from your candidature. Who can you lead? You still have a lot of time to vie. What do you know?
I really want to chime in on this. Hang on to this thought because I need to get friends for this conversation. Because I mean, I'm really interested in why culturally we're not asking, you know, men, you know, who show up, you know, your baba who, or you know, or you're married, that sense. But Florence, put this into perspective for me. This last election, in all the stories and sort of all the content that we've got, what really happened to women in this last election?
There are many things that Wanja has just alluded to, and one of them is culture. Culture played a big role. There's a woman that we talked to who had to look for a man to go and speak on her behalf to the elders. The elders do not accept her to come and speak for herself. She needs to go find a man to speak on her behalf. And she hopes and prays this man will represent her, because nobody can speak like me. So imagine me looking for a guy to go and speak like me, to go and talk about how passionate I am about, let's say, Mama Mazingira here. So that guy goes. I also have to pay for that sitting. There's one female MP who is sitting right now, had to pay 100,000. And when she paid 100,000, she had to wait for 5 days. You've been told come on Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. You've been told, oh wait, we're still dealing with the governor issue. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, she had to hang around until they decide, now come in, and you have paid money. That does not happen to men. It only happens to women. So the cultural issues, the issue of digital violence online and trolls, and especially for women, showing naked, you know, of course, making up pictures and insisting that it's you. By the time you start denying, it's already out.
It's already gone.
Yes, and this issue of are you married, are you single, do you have a child, how many, have you raised children, is your husband happy? Like even the measure of my husband being happy determines whether I can be a leader or not.
Let's get to the cultural question and the barriers that we have to go through. And Martin, let's start with you. As always, you know, there's this need or propensity for us to make sure that, you know, we know the question of the women in and out. The question like, are you married? Is your husband happy? And those things. It appears to be sort of an innocuous question that comes from nowhere, but it places you somewhere. It means you're somewhat less. Isn't that so?
It is actually, and the feeling is real. Actually, you feel that you've done a lot, you've given a lot, and in fact, you're even better than that male counterpart. But still, you're told that he's better. He's better. You feel disappointed, and yet you feel you represent the people well. And actually, when it comes to other social and community matters, you represent well and you're supported. But when it comes to politics, you find yourself in a scenario whereby you don't fit. Hautoshi. But when it comes to community matters, when you give out, you give in all the issues, you attend all the needs of the community, you are an activist, you are an advocate of the community, you are wonderful. But when it comes to politics, Sasa hapo ndio penye mambo iko. You are given all sorts of names. All sorts of names just to put you at a disadvantage. And then by the end of the day, it affects you, it affects the family and everyone. Those are some of the challenges.
Yeah, just to sort of add into what my sister has said here, actually the biggest challenge in all that is the double standard. You see, if we are measuring you with this kind of a skill, at least it will be a different conversation if James Smart is measured with the same scale as me. But now the scale in a tiltiwa when it's a woman vis-a-vis when it's a man. And remember, one of the challenges the women have been talking about is just how their role in society is mostly reserved to the private life. A nice wife, she cooks, childcare, what, don't talk too much, you can't be too rich. There is always that putting you in your place in the private space. When she comes, and I remember one lady was vying. It just so happens that the brother also wanted to vie. That lady is more famous. She has a name. She's known in this country. She's in the media space, but I won't mention her because maybe she'll give her story another day. But the brother is less known, less everything. But you could tell that by virtue of the brother being the brother, it's like the candidature, she was more being told, you step down, you step down, you step down. So this double standard is problematic in this way. The women are okay when they are nice wives, nice people to host you for a breakfast, nice people to take care of the sickly in the society. But when the women are agitating for public life, because that has always been the problem. If you look at, for example, I was just looking at the names of the women who became governors. There are 7 this time round. From 3, there were 3 in 2017, but 1 died. Rest in peace. If you see the women who won this time, 6 of them were in different political seats in 2017. So that tells you that where else we have an addition of more women, it's like mostly those who made it are those who have accumulated the political experience. So even when you're talking about improvement of numbers, maybe you could also introspect these numbers. For example, Susan Keheka was a speaker, she was a senator, and now she's a governor, with all due respect to her. So are we saying that this is an increase, or this is just saying that
just transition?
So could we measure success by new entrant to say that we are moving up? That said, the double standards has been really the major barrier, because if they are saying the sister should not vie because the brother is vying, it also means that there will be no harambe and money put together to rally around her candidature. And that now becomes, it starts locally. It's like a local problem. And then it affects these numbers that you are reading for us, James.
First, all those numbers. I mean, you mentioned numbers in the beginning. You know, on how dismal and how terrible they look. And we have this question in this country all the time of throwing numbers at people, right? But you have spent more time, getting the nuanced feelings, and I like this question because it's very nuanced. We're talking about individual people and what they exactly went through. Walk me through some of this.
I think for me, it's bringing alive the numbers, making the numbers walk and talk to you and say, well, I'm number 1, but number 1 went through this, number 2 went through this. I'll talk about maybe the issue you just said, the last one, fundraising for this man. If I'm in a situation where I am running and my brother-in-law is running, I promise you, it doesn't matter. Even if I have the money, I'll be told to step down. That's a normal occurrence. Number 2, one of the financial abuse that was going on is that while the man can take a loan on our mortgage, the woman cannot be allowed to do that. And if she does, she'll be made to pay very fast, otherwise she'll be divorced. How do you even do that, the home of your children? But when a man does that, nobody asks. It is okay for a man to do it and mortgage our home and even sell our car. And
lose the elections and
still come back and be loved and hugged.
If you take this loan, I dare say that you must win. If you cannot win,
please don't you dare.
Please,
and then
don't lose this election.
When she was talking about nice, the measure of niceness is again directed by patriarchy, directed by men to decide how nice is a nice woman. It is not even I cannot say Wanja is nice. When a man comes in and says Wanja is not nice, imagine now the parameters are because the man has said she's not nice. We had women here who struggled with just even going forth to say, wait a minute, I am running on my party, I am strong, I've been able to, I've been a grassroots woman, so I have the votes like she had. I have the people behind me, and tangible. But then when you get to the party again, there were challenges at party level where, because this one is our guy, and IEBC allows that little threshold where you can go and say, we gave this nomination to so-and-so because this so-and-so is loyal. Again, who determines how loyal somebody is loyal to a particular party? The men again meet and decide, Wanje is not loyal enough, Smart is very loyal, so we give Smart. How will we measure, even if you go to a tribunal in IBC,
we can't.
Who will listen to you?
Yeah.
The party has already said Smart is the one loyal and Wanje is not loyal. And then women struggled at the primaries, because this book looked at the primary level, what were the challenges that made you not end up on the final ballot? Now, the ones who ended up on the ballot, what were the issues? There's one woman here, Ruth, who's...
Let me ask my director, because we have some of those
great.
clips just to put them up so that we can now speak on it.
Yes.
And that's what I come. Yeah, this is coming on the screen.
Yeah. So some of the issues, for example, there was a lady who's
talking about Ruth Ambogo.
Ruth had her campaigner was planted in her team. You know, somebody comes, the way women, we are very trusting. Somebody comes and says, I will help you run and da-da-da-da. So he was a chief campaigner for her. And then he ends up at some point, rapes one of the girls. And so for her, she felt, because I was vying, a girl was raped. And the person who raped her was somebody who's supposedly in my camp. And therefore, because of that, I will just leave this war. And when somebody moves up to that level of injuring you as a leader, then it makes it very difficult for you to continue vying. So I don't know whether Ruth will vie again.
Because this completely
validates
you.
Thank you. There's another one. You're going up the podium. Somebody puts his hand up your skirt. Pulls your clothes down. You don't know who it is. It's a lot of crowd, but somebody has sponsored this person to humiliate you, because we like sexualizing women. And so when a woman comes out to vie, the only place I want to do, if I will show her nakedness, then people will think she's not a good leader. So most of us, most women, let me say for the ones who are vying, the challenge is you're worried. You're a mother, remember? You're a wife, you're a mother, you're a leader in your own right. Somebody stripping you naked or trying to touch your nakedness is a violation, a vile violation. And yet, even if you went to report, Mama usipitange hiyo njia. I mean, all those things make it very difficult for a woman to say, okay, fine. Is it worth it for me to run? Is it worth for me to stay in this campaign? And those stories are here.
Let's get the next board.
Some of them very difficult. If you ask me, the next person.
My director would bring up the next board.
So I don't know if he'll bring Hamisa. Hamisa
Zaja, aspirant woman representative, Mombasa County.
Mombasa County. Hamisa woke up one day to find her social media account has been hacked and there's enough pornographic content. Wow. And she's Muslim. She's a woman living with a disability. She's doing everything she can to run for this seat. She also receives phone calls and she's being told, we will break your leg. I mean, she's already disabled. And then you're saying you'll break her. So what else are you saying? And then somebody saying, you are very stubborn. So there's this thing that if you talk a lot or if you speak, if you're confident, you're actually stubborn. So I've never heard somebody calling a man a stubborn person. Have you ever heard that? No. I've never heard a man being called stubborn.
Okay, next board.
Smart, when you see it, you tell me.
Beatrice Gambo. Gambo, yes.
Beatrice Gambo was in Kisaoni. Beatrice comes from a family of the late Karisa Maitha. You would think, she's coming from a family that is doing politics, therefore she's ready. She even thought, I can do this thing.
It's kind of a political family.
Yes. And yet, what she faced is the issue of financing and not being able to use collateral on some of her property so that she can get financing. So even women financial inclusion becomes a really big challenge because banks cannot give you money. I mean, one day if you walk in, a man walks in, I don't know which language they speak, they get loans. But women walk in, Where is your title? Where is your house? Where is all that? How do they do that?
Because maybe it's because
Next
the men
one?
are the owners of title. They
Exactly.
are owners of
the shambas, yet
owners of factors of production.
is it
All
Taslim?
right. Yeah, Jane Wamboi, aspirant Kiambu Town.
Yes, so Jane Wamboi is the one I was telling you earlier, who had to look for a man to go represent her culturally, and the elders required for her to give 5 sheep, traditional liquor, among other things, yet they will still say that as a woman I cannot address them and that I should have a male emissary to speak on my behalf. She also noted that she was told there was a message going around that she's pregnant and the pregnancy was not from her husband. So first, you are pregnant and you are running. How will you lead us? So utaenda kuzaa. And then number 2, if it is not your husband's how do those guys know that pregnancy is not her husband? So from that respect, people think you are a promiscuous, you sleep around with men, which is the same tag women get who are vying, that for you to be in a political space, it means you're sleeping around. And it's the men who decide that you're sleeping around. A man can even come up and say, I slept with Wanja. And before you say, I did not, they will believe the man, they will not believe you.
Wow.
Okay, the final one. Let's go to the final story. This story is completely heartbreaking. But it's good that it's coming out. Valentine Otieno.
So Valentine did very well. She became number 2 during the Kisumu Women Rep county position. So I was almost giving up because sometimes you will post a picture of campaigns in church with respectable people and someone will accuse you of sleeping with a person so as to raise fund. It was very demeaning. In 2017, I was asked to fetch a husband, yet some of the people asking this were fellow women. My intelligence and academic credentials were thrown out of the window. And so she didn't have money. She relied on her boyfriend to be her backup. But what is one man? What will one man do? And I remember Millie Mabona once sharing and saying that the greatest cost for a woman running is security. Because you will want security around you so nobody puts their hand up your skirt. You want security around you so that nobody locks up your truck like they locked up Honorable Pasari's trucks and ran away with the keys. You want somebody to protect so that nobody touches your home. There's one here who, her house, they threw stones in her house. Luckily, her child was not home. So all these things, just to make sure a woman does not run. And so when you're intimidated as a woman, the life of your child is in danger, the life of your family is in danger, the first thing you're going to do is throw in the towel and say, you know, it's not worth it that I will lose my family. But I think men just say it is worth it.
Listen, you've had these experiences. Let's talk just around the question of security. How do you organize your own security first?
Well, my security is key, as actually she has said, very key, and especially in informal settlement, you need to have security, you need to have backup, backup of the police, and backup of the leadership, the community leadership, even the opinion leaders. There has to be backup. But the security lazima pia hata wewe, you have your own security to work with. Yes. And also people to actually go, before you actually go to for a meeting, you actually send your spies to actually know the kind of climate in that particular area. Is it worth for you to go there, or what is going to happen? So security is a must, and they must be paid. So that is another. It is not for free. So the more the security you'll have, the more expenses you'll have on security. So the lesser it means also, if you have the financial constraints, you'll go for a fewer security. And that also is tricky. So it means when you're campaigning, it is strictly issues. You don't attack anyone because you never know. And luckily for us, we had issues. We had so much issues, bearing in mind we are from Kibra. There are challenges of water, challenges of this security itself, challenges. So when we campaign and speak out the issues, people identify. So when they identify, at times there is that particular climate whereby it's easier for you to actually do what? To converse.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the day you will be asked, hey, mama sasa unatuacha aje? Unajua hatuwezi kula sera. Sasa unatuacha aje? Umeongea vizuri kabisa. Indeed, hata umefanya sasa tumejua climate change ni nini. Lakini sasa are we going to eat this? So security matters. Security matters is a must. In this particular point in time, you need to have security. And also the backup, we were grateful this time during the elections, the OCS, OCPD, there was a lot of support. Yes, there was a lot of support. We had the OCPD's number, OCS's number, so it was much easier. So when you feel there is something, it's much easier, just call.
I think maybe I could just add two things.
Yeah.
One of the ladies here, when the agents, you've paid them, but they think you should pay them more because the others paid theirs more. Yet you had an agreement. They actually came to attack her in the house and attack her children. Luckily, she had the OCS's number and she was able to be helped. She had to remove her children from that home to another place until the elections are over. All these things, you as a woman has to think, if they attacked me, where will I take my children? If you don't have an alternative home, what will you do? You'll definitely say, let me just stop. Then another one, which I think Kenyans need to hear. This young girl is vying, she wants to be an MCM in Makina Ward. Yes. And one of the things I'm happy it's a watershed, is it? Past watershed. Yes, so this one says, in one occasion, an opponent said, siwezi shindwa na mtu ako na matiti. Meaning I can't be defeated by someone with breasts. And this is something that he said directly to supporters. So he was an opponent to her. And the only thing he felt he can use, he's not arguing Sarah, he's just arguing this one. And then the last one here, a supporter once told her, we tutakupatia sababu umebeba. As in, because you look like you're well endowed, you have hips, that is the only reason we'll vote for you. Wow. So you're not voting my intelligence, you're voting how beautiful I am, how nice I look, or if I look ugly according to you, you should not vote for me. So we are even judged by how we look for us to get a vote as women. And that should not be the case in a society like this.
Maybe we could just chime in the issue of security. That issue of security, there were conversations towards the elections whereby because at the end of the day, the person in charge of all this is IBC, who is supposed to do the elections. They had said that candidates who are perpetrating violence could be disqualified from vying. So in this way, sometimes I really struggle with, I'm vying, and then people are saying, you take care of your security. Maybe the conversation should shift to, don't attack me. It's like you're blaming, I'm vying, I have taken myself to the ground, why should I be so worried? Maybe the conversation should be, you people who are planning to attack this candidate should even be disqualified from vying, because now the moment the blame is on me, then you are telling the people that they can get away with planning for insecurity and attacking my team. But also that issue of security could also be online. There was a lot of online insecurity, online bullying, online emojis, online gifts for making fun of you, online cartoons, online things. So there was also a lot of, I would call it mental anguish, mental insecurity. Because you have to see this. You have to see this. Yeah, and somebody shares. Yeah, and also one of the tactics that was used towards one of my candidates in Tharaka-Nithi for a party, it would happen that, the way they were planning the town halls, where you are planning a core team to invite, then when the meeting is in progress, your opponent would mobilize a lot of people to come to your meeting. It looks, more or less, it looks like a stampede. So destabilize you. Destabilize you. And remember, at the end of the day, maybe your core team, you had said we'll have tea and then we'll sort of have coffee. And remember, even the people who have come in drones, they are also your voters. So it was, they are creating a scenario where maybe you had a budget, umetokelewa na watu kama 500 or 400. Mheshimiwa anaitana. And political news, they move like bushfire. Before you know it, you have 1,000 people at the playground and you are really confused. So those are some of the issues there.
Well, with all respect, these are our stories from the 2022 elections, and happy that we're discussing this. When we're taking a short break now, when we come back, we'll discuss what needs to be done and what can we do to make sure that these are not just questions and stories and numbers, but actually there are solutions to this. Florence, Wanja, and Malasin are staying with us. With all respect, don't go too far.
Ooh, here comes the singleton. It's gonna be delicious, and you know it. A silky, smooth single malt on the way to your glass. Just look at that. Oh my. The singleton? This will be good.
Wanja and I have Malasin. The question, there's a evolving question that is coming out online. A question is like, politics happens within certain space. It happens on crowds. It takes long, you know, sometimes through the night. You know, it essentially is a very unstable place. How do you propose that this works for women? It's a tough question. I know. But we must deal with it.
Yes, we should. But IBC had clear guidelines on how campaigns should be done. But a lot of issues are discussed during the nights and very early in the morning. And this dynamics this time was actually different. We saw campaigns actually being done at around 5 in the morning, as early as 5. People are already out as early as 4 a.m. They're out. So there's no clear guidelines on how it has to be done, but it should be done. If it is at night, as a woman candidate, you must be there. You must be there. There's nothing you can do. You just organize your security, you go. If it is early in the morning, you have to be there. And the important decisions at times are actually being made during the night. Deep in the night, and you'll still have to do it.
Florence, this is the thing, that I've covered politics for a while, and I've seen that there's two sides of politics. There's the stuff that you go out and to the field and talk to people, and this is where we're testing your eloquence, you know, how you interact with people. This is one side alone, and it's fine. The most important bit is the power brokers at night, where decisions are decided, where Florence can be the MP of Karachuonyo or whatever. And you have to be there at night.
Now, that is one of the challenges. We talked about cultural barriers as one of those things. Now, first of all, wananchi or the people or the community wants to see you as a respectable woman so that they can vote for you. So you're balancing between being in the box of what respectable is to them and also doing what politics requires you to do, to be present in those 3 a.m. meetings or whatever time of meetings. And I want to quote one woman. Naturally, the Mijikenda are not openly violent, but they have traditions that demean and look down upon women, thereby violating their rights. She said, now this is the woman saying that psychologically, they thought that there were people conducting their campaigns while she was in the house attending to house chores and wifely duties, made her feel as an incomplete politician. Yet, for her to get the backing of her husband, she needed to be home to ensure he has a hot meal on the table. So will I be putting hot meal on the table or still going for the party meeting? So this is a catch-22 for many women, especially in communities where tradition is so entrenched that you cannot break free and say, I'll just do it anyway. So that's a challenge. And then you find opportunities like, yes, I'll definitely need to be there, but also you are working with, I'll be branded, they will decide, and that could be the only reason. Because you missed the meeting, you will not get the spot. But because you went to the meeting, you will lose the vote. So it's a catch-22. And she was saying, organize your security. I think the issue of organizing your security is about the state needs to provide security, and especially for women. Because where will I get the money to buy t-shirts, to walk around from point A to B, and still get the money for security? Until women feel safe in this country, there's a problem. And some parties, you will find the power brokers say, if you don't sleep with me, you'll not get this position. So you decide, I will not sleep with you. Then you lose the seat. Then everybody says you are not a credible politician. But people don't know what went on behind the scene. And I keep on saying, any politician who was power broking with women and insisting that you have to give sexual favor, you are no different from those people in the flower farms who violate women or in the tea farms who violate women. And the same brand that will get on the people who are rapists under the Sexual Offences Act should also follow you. And therefore, parties themselves, because we're talking about what should we do, parties themselves, it's from the party level at primary that we need to safeguard the lives of women and protect women, because they are vulnerable by virtue of just them being female. Not that they don't have this. Just by virtue of me being who I am as a woman, I'm already vulnerable in the society. So parties should go an extra mile to protect their women who are vying. And then we go to the police and IBC.
Maybe if I could just come in on the issue of power brokers and what have you. This election was very unique, not only for Jubilee Party. I think almost all political parties did not do the party primaries as it were. It was negotiated democracy, but there were 1, 2, 3 parties that did the party primaries. But you agree with me that almost all parties had the negotiated democracy. I happened to sit in some of the negotiated democracy meetings, and James Matt, even as we are talking about issues around gender, it is also a lesson, because now we are also looking into the future. Yes. I want to, based on my as a curious observer somewhere in the corner, I also think that women are not good negotiators. And
explain that. What do you mean women are not good negotiators?
What I mean is,
please.
Here's why. You talked about the issue of niceness, being nice. So we are socialized. To say, it's okay, thank you.
Not to ask for it.
Not to ask for it.
And stamp
and
your
that
feet.
is reflected even in terms of pay, gender pay gap. Whereas a male doing the same job could negotiate for more money. It is reflected in many other facets of social economics for women. It is also reflected in the political seat, whereby you see with the issue of negotiated democracy, it's like you're in the table, we have the cards. Why should you be the one who is going to run with our ticket in Nairobi constituency, for example, if it exists? It doesn't. So I see that moving into the future, part of the training, so you see, you adapt according to the way things are. Traditionally, we were doing the party primaries, let's fight, watu wapange line, what have you. Now we are talking about sitting in the table and defending your candidature in the table. These numbers, you've talked about 12% of all the candidates being women. Probably some of the reasons why they never made it to the ballot in August, it is because they had challenges pushing for their candidature. So, are they good negotiators? It's not reflected in the candidates we got. Are there challenges? Yes. Are some challenges outside of them? Yes. Are there challenges internal? Probably yes. Pushing for your candidature, pushing for your name, becoming very serious and proving and selling yourself, because you also see that most women achieve a lot, but they are never able to document their achievements. They are never able to say, oh, here I am, I've done this, I've done this. So you'll always find them, you're proper, you're nice, yet you have achieved so much. So those are some of the challenges moving to the future. If the way to go is negotiated democracy, instead of critiquing negotiated democracy as a principle, and remember it's within the law. The law says that candidates can be either directly nominated or indirectly. So it's within the law. Negotiated democracy, it has been working. It's part of our laws. Yeah. So the question is, how do you position yourself? How do you sell your candidates? How do you push and negotiate for yourself? Yeah.
Malasim.
I think partially I will agree with you, but partially and I will disagree. Because what happened to me, it was, you know, I didn't have an opponent, but within the coalition I had. So what I find there was this one rally that was supposed to happen within our locality, and then I got to know during the day, very late.
And I need to fix your microphone just for and this is a very important story. So hang on. Let me get. Yeah. I need to come to you, but still on this question of negotiating, especially what happened in 2000 and the last election, essentially, the visibility, all right, of your candidature was a big thing, and there's almost a point of what are you bringing in terms of, you know, mass, yes, to bring everyone else. Exactly.
I think for me, and when one just started, she mentioned this with 7 women who've become governors. The running thread for all of them, most of them either were nominated first, most of them were women reps first. Yes. It meant having been tested. Most women, society wants you to be tried and tested first before you can run for office. So the issue of even the affirmative action seats is very critical because people want women to be tried and tested first. So Gladys Wanga, Cecily Mbarire, all those, for them to be where they are.
This is what I was talking about.
Exactly, but you see, for me to be able to come up here as a woman, there's that tried and tested thing. A young man will show up one day and say, I want to run. Oh, baba yake kitambo alikuwaga politician. Wacha tumpatie. And the party propels him. And he gets to a level mpaka you guys are like, hey, who is this guy? James Smart is running for Karachuonyo seat. And he wins. Out of nowhere. Out of the blue. But a woman has to be tried and tested. And so that next time you can say, wait a minute. I was women rep. This is what I've done. This is what I'm able to do. Now I can be, no, even I can run again for that women rep seat. So the thing is, society requiring, even within parties, for you to be tried and tested. And that is why for me, I'm advocating the affirmative action seat is so critical for us to propel more women ahead so that we can prove to you that they can actually lead. And then once they've led, you can say, okay, then maybe we can try you. And which you did another handle, but you will be coming with this mass that they're saying you need to have. Yeah.
Once I still need to fix this. Still on the same question. I mean, here, and it happens sometimes, you ask for an interview and you ask for some of the degree, and the woman, even the PhD, would really think of applying for it. But a man with a certificate applies for it, like 2,000 of them, right? Is it a question of just shameless guts, or just the way society is conditioned? Where do you place this?
You know, socialization really plays a big role in how the women view themselves. And now if you see socialization and how it's reflected into the society, because even culture and community, it starts at the level of how a girl socialized. Those issues of being nice, those issues of not talking too much, those issues of don't risk, don't panda kwa muti ukichukua fruits, don't look like you're talking too much, who will marry you. When even girls, you've had some of these things are said in jest, even in families. A girl who is like 12, 13, they are said, she's being taught to cook with those statements like, sasa wewe nani tutakuwa napikia bwana yako. There are always those socialization that it's like you are being prepared for the private role of being a mom, of being a wife, of being a homemaker, and never really prepared for the public role.
We prepare our women, let me get this straight. We prepare the females to be in private spaces, not in public.
Not in public spaces.
So we're really struggling with our women in public spaces.
Yes, and those who are actually coming to the public spaces, we have to really put them in their place. Anaongea sana, akona kiherehere, anaongea sana. Unajua hata hana bwana. Unajua mama hata ndio bwana. Hata wewe huwezi kumtaka. And also now it sort of now comes with the double standards. It's not happening to the boys, it's happening to the girls.
A walk down history tells you that when men were being taken to Kenya School of Government, their wives were being taught only home science and cooking, so that when the Muzungu comes, you can serve beautiful food, you can serve soup, then after that you do starters, then you do whatever. But it was ideally Wanja can only be good for entertaining when her husband has important guests. But there was no time off. Wanja will be important enough, not necessarily to be the one serving the tea. So it comes from history. Engineering department of Nairobi University didn't have a toilet for girls because they never thought girls could be engineers. Parliament, same story, toilet. Even right now, there are very few in Parliament for girls.
I need to come back to your story because like on Kibra, what happened to you exactly? Please.
There was a rally within my coalition. I had an opponent. Surprisingly, he was the one who was given the mobilization slots. In fact, 1,000. And when I asked, I was told, huwezi leta wengi, because yeye ndiye amepatiwa nini nafasi. And then we are going to attend the same rally, and we went indeed. I had my people, but there were few. He mobilized 1,000.
So he looked like he had the ground.
He had the ground. Actually, when he came in, people were actually chanting. Even my few people could not be seen. And that is how I was told, Amida, You see he's anaonekana kuna watu, you know, and I said no, this is asiati ni watu hapa ni mobilization, yeye ndiye amepewa. I was not given that opportunity to mobilize. So you find in a particular meeting the opponent has got more people, and then sometimes it is even deliberate. The opponent has more people, and then the people are, you have your few mobilized people, of course the voices will be less.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, that is how you're judged. Amida sasa inamaanisha hauna watu. It's like you're weak. In fact, there's a woman, a fellow woman who told me, a woman leader, she told me, you know, Aki, indeed you look so weak. Hata ukiangalia tu, he looks, he's better. Akona watu. And that is how I had to, the opportunity was actually given to him. And I was told, okay, Hamida, don't worry, we will see what we can do. So let's just support him. And because,
and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. There was nothing I could do. Yeah.
Let's take this home. Let me start with you, Wanja. What absolutely must happen, all right, to fix this sort of problem we have? It's a long-term problem. It's a problem of culture, how we view things, you know, a problem of systems. What is your number one priority that must happen between now and the next time there's an election?
Probably as a budding politician, I might not have exactly one, but I'll attempt. I'll start by saying...
You started to be a politician too early. Continue. Okay, let's go for your top three.
I'll say that election is not an event, it's a process and it's a cycle. Right now we are in an electoral cycle. Some of the things to be done is really capacity building. Issue 2 is that political parties should have internal affirmative action program. Like for example, in my party, Jubilee Party, when we were having the elections, if for example we want to vie for the governorship, if the man was paying, let's say 500k, the women were paying 250,000. So there are those things that can be done at party level to try and attempt to level the playing field. I'd also urge the voters, you know, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, it's about Wanjiko the voter. I think Wanjiko the voter has a lot of double standards. Wanjiko pia anafaa kujiuliza maswali. For example, a friend of mine, well spoken, nicely, she was vying, her name is Alice Wangari. She was vying to be a senator in Kiambu. She's well educated, she's a lawyer. She told me now she has been told anaongea kizungu mingi, ati anaongea kizungu mingi. So I'm like, okay, but a lawyer sindi anaelewa mambo ya senate na hiyo kizungu itasaidia senate. But then again, ukiongea kizungu mingi uko educated na uelewi mambo ya chini, but kama uongei tena hujasoma utatuambia nini? So there are a lot of double standards. Doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. Shida ni mingi. So let's also introspect that and also still put it back to the voter. The voter should also really try to know what they want, because now at the end of the day, if my fate is determinant on the voter, there's a lot of education that needs to be done to the voter. Anitangwa Wanjiko. Last but not least, the final one, please. The final one. I really take it back really to IBC and the judiciary. This time around, I have not done a study, but I noticed, dependent on how there was a case in the Supreme Court for the presidential election, some of us were not happy with the tone in which the delivery was done, considering that even our side, we were told that we lost. Based on how they dismissed, what have you, all the women who are aggrieved in other seats like the Senate, like the gubernatorial, like the member of parliament, they lost hope in seeking for the justice of the outcome of the election. Because you know now the presidential election is the one that was determined first, I think within 14 days.
It sets the tempo for what happens next.
So if it sets the tempo, the moment I lose hope in the IEBC, and that's why I've gone to the judiciary, and then the judiciary still treats and talks in such a tone, then I noticed that most women who are dissatisfied, they were very keen on seeking for justice and this going to court, but some of them were like, they lost interest. Right. So I feel like judiciary, IBC are key stakeholders, and there are some real grievances that they should address here.
Malasin, what should happen absolutely?
What should happen, I agree with Wanja. Wanjiko should be actually sensitized. Wanjiko should be informed. Wanjiko should be informed early. Campaign during the IBC should start very early, at least 2 years to election, for the Wanjiko to understand well. And also the amendment. we saw 2022 the political party amendment. The act was actually amended around February, whereby people were not very conversant with everything that is going on.
And too late.
The timelines are tricky. You have to campaign. You have to look at the timelines. It was a tricky scenario for candidates. So at least what needs to be done, everything has to be done early. The scheduling must be early, and also the campaign should start early, definitely, for every one of us.
Umerudi ground kwanza. Right now you should be campaigning. I hope you are campaigning now.
We've undergone training anyway. We've been told immediately lose you start campaign. But you start in a good tempo. Si kama hiyo yetu ya fujo hapana. You start pole pole, you go to the ground, you tell people now things are already done, we are done and dusted, but there is tomorrow. Tugange ajayo. So isikuje na hiyo maneno mingi mpaka ianze kudestabilize watu. Sisi unajua tuko Kenya kwanza, and then we are in government. We need that atmosphere to work and to deliver services.
Okay. Okay. Florence, what absolutely must happen?
I think we still need to continue documenting the stories of the women, even if it's one. Because if one woman is unsafe during election, there's a problem. The way our country is, if we don't deal with the menace of gender-based violence in a period where there is no election, then we will not be having the right structures to deal with the same GBV when we have election, because the election just exposes our underbelly, if I could say so. It's like it's an emergency period, meaning if we don't put structures in place, then we're in trouble. So for me, what must absolutely happen is that every woman in this country needs to feel safe to vie, and from party level up to to the IEBC being in control. So GBV structures need to be put in place: judiciary, police, our political actors, everybody, so that by the time we're getting into an election period, we don't see what happened in 2007, where women were being used as pawns when you want to score a point against your opponent. Yes.
All right, Florence Machio, Gender Equity Champion, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Wanja Maina, Development Specialist and budding politician. We need to change this to politician.
Yes.
And Malasin Hamida, Mama Zingira.
Yes.
Good luck with your campaigns.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we will go to the ground with you next time and seeing what happens to you. You're saying all the right things. with all the respect. Good night, and thank you very much for your company. We have to love you and leave you. My name is James Smart.